Hey everyone. So welcome back to series three of Melody Music Introducers. Today we are joined by Carl Chatham.
Hello.
How's it going, Carl?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Is it fair to which part of Scotland are you from?
I'm broadly from a place called Kilmarnock, which is just outside Glasgow.
Oh,
Yeah, on
okay.
the coast.
Okay, nice. And are you based up there at the moment, or are you in London?
No, I'm based in South London.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
been here for about yeah 5 or 6 years on and off.
Oh, okay, nice. Still got the Scottish accent though.
Yeah, clinging on for dear life, really. Yeah, doesn't change much.
I'm from Sydney, and I've been living in London for the past 10 odd years. So yeah, my accent's long gone.
I was gonna say I didn't pick it up until you said the word Sydney there, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that is.
Yeah, mine's long gone at this point. Um, so yeah, but before we started recording, you said you've known Luke Askew, or you met Luke Askew a few times a few years ago, um, which is great. He's been a part of the gig, which the first Melody Music gig, been
Oh
in
yeah.
interviews. So great to have you on, and great to sort of find out that this sort of industry in London and stuff is, and now also Scotland is not too big.
Yeah, it's a smaller world than you think a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll get you started with a few baseline questions, get you started, get you warmed up. Uh, so what is or was your favorite song that you've written so far?
Probably a song called Departure Day,
Okay.
which came out nearly a year ago, last September anyway. Um, and I think it's just I don't know. It's always been kind of mainstay of the live set, even before like it was written kind of 2 years before it actually came out. I was kind of playing it at every gig and closing the show with it, and I don't know. I've got like preferences for um, other tunes, and it wouldn't necessarily be the first thing I'd show to people, but um, I think it's kind of short enough and concise enough that it kind of gets across the idea of what at least I was trying to do there better than some of the other songs, maybe that take a bit more getting used to or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Um, yeah, it's interesting because we've had artists on here, and we've had Samuel Ashton. He sort of said, oh, "I don't really have a favorite. This is just the one which has done well live."
Yeah, there's an element of that I think, like because you play into so much kind of uh silenced in a way, like for so long that you're not um getting genuine sort of feedback
Yeah.
a lot of the time, and I think that you you you're kind of just there'll be some stuff that is your favorite because of quite specific reasons, but you're kind of locked up in it so much that you lose so much objectivity. So whenever anyone starts really paying attention and there's even the slightest kind of unanimous decision amongst people of like that's really good, by the way, you start to just
Yeah.
believe that all the time. But yeah, I can relate to that.
Oh, nice, nice. And now we've already touched on the performing aspect, but what's your favorite song to perform?
It might be actually wouldn't be Departure Day because it's quite difficult to play. I've not really. It doesn't have to be that way, but it's kind of just the way I felt worked.
Hmm.
It's kind of the song's basically just got one melody that repeats itself essentially for about 3 minutes, and when I play it live, the guitar part plays along with the vocals, so I'm kind of totally concentrating on kind of remembering every word and plucking the melody along at the very same time. Rather than just playing straight chords or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, and just the fact that it is the same thing over and over again you try not to think about it too much. You start tripping up if you overthink it. So, but I don't know. Favorite to play live changes a lot. It tends to be right after I come off stage. If there's one that I felt I played particularly well that night, and I'll be like, right, that's my favorite one to play live until the next gig where it doesn't go as well, and you're like, maybe not anymore. Um, but yeah, maybe there's a tune called Valentine, which is kind of like the first thing I put out after moving to London, and it was the first thing I played at the first gig in London that I've played, and I don't think there's been a gig where I haven't played it.
Yeah.
So, and you would, I guess, you would think it would get really boring after a while, and sometimes I can't really be bothered with it, but I think just to that degree, it's kind of it's it's my favorite for just kind of leaning on,
Mm,
after all this time. It's just a kind of safe one to play, I suppose.
yeah. You know, what I found quite funny is the songs that artists write that are usually a little bit more when they're in the studio, it's great. It's a great song to have in the studio, but when you play it live, it's tricky. And those are the ones which audiences love, which the artists just
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah, and I mean, translating things live is um can be more difficult now than ever, really, because of people's kind of ability to produce by themselves has got so kind of expansive
mm,
and technological in a lot of ways, and the ability to have a band live and
yeah,
kind of not even think about like paying those people or getting rehearsal space or even meeting the right people that want to do that is kind of feels further away than ever a
mm,
lot of the time. So you have to try and um yeah, figure out ways of conveying it that doesn't rob the charm of the song or whatever. But and sometimes it works better than others. And I think that the reason some songs end up being your favorite to play live is just because they found a way to do it where you haven't lost the idea of whatever the recorded version is.
yeah, yeah. It's always that thing because audiences come and they want to hear you and want to hear the music which they've heard online, but of course you can't always reciprocate that
Hmm.
live. So yeah. So who inspired you to make music? I know you've got some ideas of artists and stuff that you've like inspired your music on. Is anyone in your life that's been like when you've started doing music has massively inspired you and made you want to create music?
Like people I know personally, you mean?
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I think like yeah, definitely friends that some friends who I grew up with and friends who I've met down here. Definitely, it's more interest in being kind of influenced by your
yeah.
neighbor, maybe, than it is someone who's you know uh, out of reach to some degree. But uh, I think there's a musician called Walter Coaches who's based in Stoke in Manchester, and um, yeah, we ended up randomly on a bill together in Shepherd's Bush like 2.5 years ago or something, and he was just so kind of unique and um, intense, um, and it never really left me, and we kind of stayed vaguely in touch, but. And we've since played like a few gigs together, and I supported them at the Finsbury last year. Um, and I think I don't know, yeah, just his kind of approach to making music and his voice in particular, and his style of writing is kind of rare for me. Like playing around a lot of gigs in London to really be, and I think this is true of everyone really, but to actually find someone that you would have become an instant fan of, 10 years ago or at any time. But he's definitely like that, and um, one of the rare occasions where you're after performing with someone like that, you really kind of want to um, it just kind of spurs you on to want to do it more, I suppose. Like it's not because you can come home from a lot of gigs and it's kind of like on the treadmill, kind of again and again and again, and you forget sometimes how um, amazing it can be,
Mm.
and what you might run into, and just how much work someone can put into something that
Yeah.
isn't seen by anyone. I think it's almost enhanced by the fact that you're in a room of like five people and you could like you can't really believe what you're seeing or whatever, and it kind of gives you a reason to keep going.
Yeah. I mean, it's that thing of going to gigs. You pretty much know what you're going to get from the big artists, but going to gigs and seeing the sort of independent artists where you don't know what to expect.
Yeah,
Like those artists are probably put in days, if not weeks, of prep for, especially if it's a big gig. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
for sure. It's not to say that big artists don't put in the prep,
yeah,
but it's just that it's so much. It's so much harder at this level now to do
mm,
basically anything that
yeah,
it's impressive when anything actually happens, more or less.
yeah, yeah. Um, so this brings on to the last sort of general or generic question, which is if you wanted to re-record any song as a cover, what would you release?
Oh, an actual studio version of a cover.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Jesus Christ.
It's not an easy one, is it?
I've recently been playing The Hole of the Moon by the Waterboys quite a lot, but um, I've always had Perfect Day by Lou Reed in the back of my head to do that as a kind of recorded thing, and I've never done it. I don't really know why, but something about it's always just kind of stuck out to me. Um, uh, I mean, that's nothing new. Obviously, it's like an amazing song, but like, there's a little kind of piano part melody thing about halfway through that I can't remember. I heard it over Christmas there, and just remember thinking that would be really cool to try and do something with that,
Yeah,
recording wise. But um, yeah, some songs should just never be touched as well.
yeah.
So that.
Yeah, no, I get that. Um, so this brings us on to questions now more about you as a musician, as a brand, as an artist, and as a person. Um, so your debut album, Neon Spring, was written, recorded, and released while you were a finalist for the Ivors Scholarship. Hope I'm saying that right.
I would,
Uh,
yeah.
Ivors. How did that experience shape your approach to songwriting and production, being in a competition like that? What sort
Yeah,
of,
I always forget they were kind of like right around the same time because they were sort of uh the scholarship, the competition thing wasn't really to do with the album that much. It just kind of happened to occur at the same time. But I had just been making music in my bedroom for years into that point, and sort of between like 2015 and 2019, I just kept like basically making albums at home, and there'd be like two or three maybe a year at one point. It was like kind of ridiculous. Uh, and it was totally different back then. Like, there was a lot of kind of heavier stuff or like more sampled music or whatever. Um, uh, and then it changed, and Yeah, the last kind of go I had at making an album was Neon Spring, and it was it's the one that kind of stayed there because it's kind of the I was it was the point where I ended up on the track that I kind of stayed on musically, more or less. Like, the things I make now aren't a million miles away from that album. And it was the last time I remember being kind of truly prolific. It was like right before I moved to London. I think it came out in May 2019. I moved to London in August, and um, just the kind of routine of uh, just kind of having a part-time job and living at my parents' place, and the kind of the same thing happening every week, and not having too much external worry, and not a massive kind of uh, social life or whatever, because it's not really a big town, and we were quite a small friend group. But anyway, um, I just had a lot of time to kind of nailed out about stuff and how to make things, and kind of um, really. I was just at that age of, but I was like 21 at the time, and really kind of constantly discovering kind of new music and making stuff every day. And um, I miss being able to do that, but I think it was something to do with just the routine of what life was like at the time,
Mm.
and not I wasn't playing any gigs or anything like that. It was all just kind of fantasy land stuff, making music for that reason, and then the scholarship thing was like I moved to London to go to uni, and um, it was the Ivors do kind of like songwriting awards and stuff every year. Um, Ivor Novella, it's called,
Mm.
and this was like a thing for uni students where like um, people from the songwriting course could enter, one of their songs, and if you won the final, you'd have your like tuition fees paid for you essentially.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so there was like, in essence, there was like 30 grand up for grabs, and I mean, to this day, it's probably like one of the most surreal gigs I've ever played, because it was in Brick Lane in London, and
Oh,
like
nice. Yeah.
93 feet east or something like that. I think the venue's called. Or, I can't remember. Um, but it was kind of out in this sort of kind of beer gardeny looking thing, and it was a little stage, and just the entire audience was just people in kind of suits and really dressed up, and they were all like industry people
Mm.
involved with the Ivors in some way, and I kind of half knew a couple of them. Crispin Hunt was there, who was like the singer of the Long Pigs, and um, one of the judges was a guy, um, Rupert Hine, who he's passed away now actually, but he'd done a lot of stuff that I'm completely forgetting now that was really interesting. But one of them was he wrote like GoldenEye with like Tina Turner for the James Bond film. Um,
Jesus.
just kind of dropped that in there as he was talking to him, and I was like, okay. And I didn't win it, right? But he came up to me after it, and he was like, there was a lot of debate between us. We were really kind of just deciding between you two, and we just went with her. And I was like, don't tell me that I was like close to having like your face paid for. But yeah, it was interesting. It was just a really, um, I think when there's that can come across like it's a really intense experience, like because everyone there is so
Yeah.
apparently well connected and whatever, and they've just seen you play. But I think when something is that intense, I just kind of switch off. I'm like, I can't
Mm.
even. This is beyond the point of being able to take this seriously anymore. I'm like, I just play and have a
Yeah.
laugh, whatever happens. And it was quite a nice night, but um, I'd have liked to have gone back and kind of I couldn't hang about for long because I think I was getting like the overnight train back to Glasgow that night, which was ridiculous. But it would have been nice to hang about and
Mm.
speak to some of those people and find out who they actually were because there was like 100 of them, and I must have only spoken to like five, maybe.
Mm.
But it was interesting, and a little bit surreal. And it's safe to say that, like, I moved to London a few months later, and like nothing even came close to that after that. Like, so I was like, what's it going to be like when I actually get here? And I was like, nothing like that. It's very, very one-off.
Well, sort of diving into your music a bit. Um, so, oh God, hang on. Can't even say this. Existentialist philosophy. There you go. Finally got through that word. Is a deep well to draw from. How do those ideas shape the lyrical content of your songs? And are there particular texts, kind of thing, that resonate with you when sort of writing?
Yeah, this is funny because there was a friend of mine that wrote that. I had a bio written for me years ago, and it mentioned that kind of existentialist philosophy or something like that because we were like 20 at the time. And ever since that bio was then rewritten by someone else, but they kept that bit in it, and I was like, I don't know about that. But I don't know. At the time, um, probably at the time when I was doing like Neon Spring and stuff like that, I was kind of delving into that a little bit. Um, who did I read? There was that Albert Camus guy who wrote The Outsider or um, The Stranger, I think it's called sometimes. Um, and I read that, and I was kind of it's very much it's not really my bag anymore, but I'm quite happy that I was into a lot of Charles Bukowski at the time as well, and people like who's the other one? Franz Kafka. I quite liked a lot of stuff. They aren't really existentialist philosophers, but I was basically just delving into like miserable stuff, whatever form. And it didn't really matter if because honestly like I've since kind of like gone back to look at some of the people that I was like kind of floating around with at the time, and now I'm just like I don't even kind of remotely understand this now. I don't even know why I was kind of enamored with it then. But I think it was like what I was saying earlier with when I was making that album, and it was the monotony of life kind of allowed you to kind of dream a bit more or just play around with stuff. It was like I wasn't even necessarily uh, properly getting my head around anything that I was, looking into, reading into stuff like that. It was kind of just anything that felt like it was um, suitable or I was kind of buzzed off of. I would just kind of spend time milling around with it, whether it was just watching stuff or reading a few things. But um, I never got really too heavily invested in it, but I'm sure it played a part in some way because it's not the happiest music ever either. So
We'll have a listen to it a bit later on.
yeah.
But so you've got a background in music, in sound production, and a solid foundation in music theory. Is that fair to say, or no? Or
Uh, yeah, I mean the music has definitely kind of disappeared a lot. I think to get into one of the unis that I was trying to get into, they were like, you need your grade five music theory, and I spent 6 months like bought all the books and started from grade one and like learned it all and like signed up and did an exam and like passed the grade five thing. And I think about 3 months later, I forgot everything. 'Cause I can play and stuff like that, but you just if you've been playing for 20 years, you just develop your own internal language with
yeah,
stuff. It's almost you can't really communicate what you're doing, and that's kind of the point in music, is just to be able to tell someone what to do a lot of the time, be able to easily communicate that. And I was like, all right, I've got it now. And then it just never stuck. But the sound production thing, I definitely like. That's how I started making albums. They gave us like a free version of Ableton and like which got like a MIDI keyboard and stuff like that. And I kind of just, I've still got that MIDI keyboard today, and I still work on Ableton to this day.
Mm.
I think it was definitely on a trajectory of like improvement up until that album, and then now maybe it is better to some degree, but I've stopped kind of really trying to produce my own stuff. Everyone's got so good at it now. Like I
Yeah.
remember when I started uni, and everyone had they were. I was a little bit older, and they were kind of fresh out of school, and they'd barely touched Logic or whatever, and my stuff at the time seemed to come across as a bit impressive. And I remember like a year everyone was just leaps and bounds ahead of me already. I was like, what is like people are so kind of proficient with like getting to grips with technology really quickly now. And I just kind of reach a point where I don't know. I'm like less interested in it. I've got so much less patience now. You develop habits, and you just kind of want to be able to hear something be finished quickly, and that's about it.
Yeah. So speaking of, so how you've kind of touched on this, but do you kind of feel like you want your music and your work to be more, to be a little bit more emotionally driven, like draw out emotions in people than be overly technical and overly polished?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm quite I'm probably quite guilty of uh maybe putting more shine on or kind of slick on things than there needs to be. Just because I do I do kind of like that a lot of the time. I'm not really that interested in having it sound like it was recorded on a dictaphone or whatever, you know. Sound like Nick Drake or something like that. Like I love all that stuff, but um, I really like effects, and I really like, you know, when things sound kind of uh massive. And I think there's a healthy balance of both of them really. I think one of my favorite bands probably like Deftones, and really like, and especially in their later years when they got this kind of balance of like um very slick production, but it was still really kind of heavy and spacious and kind of emotional when it wanted to be. It's a hard balance to get right, but it's kind of my favorite when it is done right, you know.
Yeah, so we mentioned about kind of your music being a little bit saddle, some of it. So given the melancholy, there's a slight beauty in the way that you've written it all and you're singing it. Do you find writing these types of songs to be a cathartic process, or is it more of a way to observe and make sense of everything going on around you?
Probably the second one. I never go into writing anything thinking I'm going to write about that. Um, and even when it's finished, I kind of spend a year thinking about what that's about. You know, I'm very much more of the mind that they're kind of not literally coming from somewhere else, but they're just kind of waiting to be written a lot of the time, and whatever sense you make of it afterwards is kind of up to you. And they change all the time. You know, there's tunes on the album that, you know, that were written 6 years ago about maybe they meant quite a specific thing at the time, but whatever it's about, that place or those people or whatever aren't in my life anymore. But the lyric still will attach itself to whatever's going on now, in the same way that you can hear a song from that was written in the 70s and you can relate to it now. It was like 50 years apart from when it was happened. So yeah, I think not I'm never writing with intention in that way, but there is a certain the catharsis is more just having like a, a song completed that you're satisfied with and gives you that kind of buzz. But I wouldn't say I necessarily get catharsis in like putting the thought on the page or whatever, you know.
Okay. And you started playing drums when you were 5, before
Yeah.
moving into guitar and now producing your music. So I've recently been in debates with other musicians that I'm mates with and everything about the fact that without knowing at least basic rhythm, writing, performing, anything like that is just a complete, like, you won't be able to get anywhere. Like, rhythm starts off for the basics for everything. What's your thought of that?
Yeah, I mean, and I think I probably agree, unless you're in the sort of Brian Eno ambient world.
Mm,
Probably had it if you can't keep a beat. But yeah, I mean, I remember that at uni and feeling quite bad for people who didn't have that because um, it can be tricky initially. Um, they would maybe know quite a lot about guitar or they'd have quite a few chords under their belt or whatever, but when they couldn't play along, you know, if it was like a group performance or something, musically it did make you look like an idiot immediately. Like just, and I felt so bad because I was like, they obviously aren't. You
yeah,
speak to them, like, you know, they can play and they think a certain way, and it's like, but the minute you can't do that, it's just like you look completely inept, and it's weird to you. I think if you've got a sense of rhythm, you think it's kind of like it comes with a package, or you get into
yeah,
music to understand it. Um, but yeah, it's not necessarily, you know. I think it's in the same way that like we all like music, but maybe all can't sing, or most people I would argue can't harmonize. I can't really harmonize like initially. Like
yeah,
somebody would just sing a harmony along to a radio, you know, and they've just heard the song, and I think, oh, I can't really do that, and that must be what it feels like to just not have intuitive rhythm. It's just like I don't know why it's not there. I still really like music, I still play, but it's
mm,
really difficult to keep in time. So it's a tough challenge to have, but um, yeah, it's probably necessary to get it.
yeah. I mean, the person that I was speaking to about this, funnily enough, I went round his house the other day, and I think he had like a book of Bach or something like that, like classical music on sheet music on his piano. Didn't even open it up and just started playing the music. And he often does that with just a random instrument. We'll just pick it up and start playing it. I'm like, mate, just cut it out for a minute. Just give a minute for everyone else to catch up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But no, it is that kind of thing where you may not be good at one thing within music, but it makes you look like a little bit of an idiot. But doesn't mean you are, because your speciality is another part of music.
Yeah, I think that's true. There's quite uni was too much of that for me a lot of the time. They wouldn't. I get that they were trying to get everyone to a sort of base level of, but they wouldn't push anyone in further into what their strength was. It was kind of like you could bring in a really impressive song in your own genre, and the first thing someone would say is like, "That's great. Why don't you write it with a faster drum beat or something like that?" It's just like, who cares, man? Someone else is going to do that. Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Like, you know,
yeah,
they, they would struggle to let you just indulge in your individuality a bit more, I think, and that's kind of exactly what should be happening in music most of the time.
yeah,
Unless you're a session player or something.
yeah. No, exactly. So before we move on to your music, what advice would you give to new artists who are just starting out, as someone who's sort of gone through and being a part of the music, your own music journey for a while?
Uh, man. Um, well, just coming off the back of that point, if especially if you're young and um, you know, doing it at uni and stuff like that, I think if you can balance the both, it's like kind of be open to everything and the way everyone is, especially in music. There's so many, there's a lot of egos and a lot of people that will try to kind of say this would be better if you did this. But the best advice I've heard really is just to be stubborn most of the time, because you can only let yourself down at that point, and
Mm,
I think you can't really be that let down if you think, well, I failed because I was following my own instinct. I'm like, well, that's a better thing than failing because you did what someone else told you to do.
yeah,
That's the last thing you want to be doing, really. So, yeah, kind of just do whatever you want and stick to it.
yeah, yeah. So before we get on to your music, one last thing is the melody music playlist that you're a part of or your music is in. So artist top hits, self portrait is in there in that
Yep.
playlist. By the way, let me know if you think any of these playlist titles are cringy. I've tried to go for alliteration for some of them.
Right.
Dazzling debuts,
Cool.
Dance Without Me is on there.
Yep.
And
Cool.
then for UK hits, the songs on there are Bulldozer, One of a Kind, Departure Day, You're Only My Friend, and Heirloom.
Yep. Cool.
So those are the ones on there. Um, and yeah, so we'll sort of draw a close on part one here. Um, Carl, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, mainly just Instagram these days. I think every 6 months another platform seems to get demolished by some nutter. So yeah, I'm sticking there for now. Instagram and yeah, keep an eye on the Spotify. The new music will be up there, and yeah, that's the main place to go.
Right. Do you know your Instagram handle?
Oh yeah, it's at Kevin Chatham, and then I think there's two underscores. There must be like four other Kyle Chathams or whatever. Uh,
Okay, nice. So we'll call it here for part one. And yeah, if anyone hasn't, go check out Carl Chatham's Instagram and Spotify. And if you haven't already, the first three episodes would be out by now, which is with Bonita Habbles. God, I hope I'm saying that right. Shamia Lilly and Chris Hart. And yeah, so go check them out, and we'll see you in part two. See you then.